Well, here we are again on another Immortal Egypt adventure in the burial chamber of the mighty warrior pharaoh Tuthmosis III. Now, the burial chamber is in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and yet today I'm here in Bolton because they have an exact replica, a full-size, amazing, exact replica of this very burial chamber. So you don't have to go to Egypt to see this tomb in all its glory. Come to Bolton, see it for yourselves. And you can see the way that the replica has been created so brilliantly because every single inch of the walls and the ceiling have been decorated in a wonderful style. It was the first tomb in ancient Egypt in the Valley of the Kings to be decorated, to have wall scenes, to have inscriptions, and these are almost Lowry-like, these stick figures that show all the gods in the underworld. They're there to sort of help the sun on its journey. It sinks down in the west each night, then it must travel through the 12 hours of darkness before it can emerge triumphant at dawn each morning. And these beautiful scenes show the big struggle that the sun god had during this journey throughout the hours of the night, all the hazards that were faced, and the way that the sun god's fellow deities rallied to his side and killed the enemies, like beheaded them, turned them upside down, impaled them with spears, did dreadful things to them, all in this effort to ensure that the sun could proceed unhindered and rise again next morning. And when you're in the tomb, don't forget to look up because the ceiling is full of these wonderful Egyptian stars. The Egyptians call them the imperishable stars that never die. And it was believed that at death, the souls of the deceased rose up and joined with them. So you can always see them twinkling in the night sky. But I think for me, the nicest little vignette in the whole tomb is the way that the pharaoh, Tuthmosis III, who was buried in this very chamber, was nurtured too by these wonderful protective deities. And here we see him. We see Tuthmosis III with his female relatives, his wives, his daughters, and most touchingly of all, we have the great mother goddess, Isis Hathor. And she's taking the form of a tree and she's feeding the king's soul. He's shown as a young boy, and in a way that only the ancient Egyptians can, they're showing this goddess as a tree, breastfeeding the young king. It sounds like a crazy concept, but it makes perfect sense within the sort of canon of Egyptian art. It's a wonderful thing, and it's just one of the fantastic scenes here in this royal burial chamber here in the heart of Bolton. Well, I'm joined now by the curator at Bolton, the curator of Egyptology, Ian Tumble. And I really need to ask Ian, how come Bolton and yourself have the burial chamber of Tuthmosis III?
Great question. I mean, it's fantastic that Bolton's got this replica. It came as part of an exhibition, a touring exhibition that was done several places around the world, and Bolton acquired this tomb after that and very luckily managed to fit it into our brand new galleries in 2018. The tomb itself was created by an art conservation company called Factomate. These create, as you can see, exact copies. So this is scanned from the original. Every detail is exact, millimetre accurate, including all the damage. So the damage that you can see in the walls here is from the scan and then etched into the plaster to produce, as I said, millimetre accurate copy of this tomb.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? And it's such a democratic thing because not everybody can afford to go to Luxor in the Valley of the Kings, but you know, if they can get here to Bolton, they can immerse themselves in, you know, ancient Egypt around 1450 BC, and you know, this is a royal burial chamber. This is the same part of Egypt where the tomb of Tutankhamun is. It's not far away, and this is the very first one to be decorated. So it's wonderful that it's here in Bolton, you know, because people can then see this incredible artwork that relates to a lot of the gods and the images and the statues, the figurines that you've got on display in the main gallery. So it works wonderfully well.
There are 3 copies of tombs in the world. Seti I, Tutankhamun, both of which are in Egypt, and Tuthmosis III, which is here in Bolton.
That's incredible. I mean, that is such an accolade for Bolton, which has a world-class collection, but it has the only exact replica royal tomb from the Valley of the Kings outside Egypt.
Absolutely.
I mean, now we've got to the point where even if people can't make it here to Bolton, which I strongly recommend they do, they can actually access this as a walkthrough tour on our website. So it's sort of, you can access this on any level you want. So it's a wonderful thing, and I just wish I lived near it. I've been here all the time. You must come in here a lot, don't you?
As much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I bet it's very popular with school children, isn't it?
It's amazingly popular with school children. We have several schools in per day, so several hundred children a week, which is incredible. So almost every Bolton child will spend some time in this tomb growing up.
And what a memory. You know, how many Egyptologists of the future have you been able to inspire because you have this tomb here, the only one in the world outside Egypt? I just think that's just the cherry on the Bolton cake,
In
isn't
20 years' time, we'll find out.
Yeah. Also, for me, one of the wonderful things that you've done here at Bolton is that this is a royal burial chamber. And we know from research we did back in 2007 on one of your fantastic ancient Egyptian mummified bodies of an anonymous male individual who's clearly high status, but the team we were working with, we were able to put together all the information, and it strongly looks like the previously anonymous individual was a minor royal. And so to have him now rehoused here in this royal burial chamber is just a brilliant marriage of, you know, the royal mummified body in this environment. So I think that's showing due respect, isn't it?
That's exactly what we wanted. When you come into this space, it's an experiential space. There are no objects in here. There are no cases. You know, there's 2,000 objects in the rest of the gallery. In here, there are none. But what we do have is the case that has him in. And as you say, he's in the most respectful place we could have put him as a museum, so that people can still come and learn about him.
Yeah, and he's got such a fascinating story to tell, and I think he's displayed in a very, very respectful way, much like the royal mummies in Cairo Museum for many years, in that sort of special space where, you know, the lighting's subdued, you feel a sense of awe going into, you know, these spaces. And let's face it, that's what this whole room, this tomb was designed to do, to sustain the royal soul into eternity. So in many ways, you're just fulfilling that wish that all Egyptians had.
Yeah, and he's in exactly the same spot as the sarcophagus of Tuthmosis III would have been placed. I
think that's thoughtful and yet quite wonderful. And it touches you on an emotional level when you see him, because he's in the very rightful place, you know.
It creates respect as soon as you come into the space.
Yeah.
You can't help but be respectful.
We've dated him at around 1250 BC, this is from 1450 BC, so there is a 2-century discrepancy, but in the chronology of ancient Egypt, that's the blink of an eye. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of years of this amazing culture developing and evolving, and to sort of have these wonderful sort of displays here at Bolton, this is probably, for me, it's the most evocative. You really do feel like you're back in Egypt. It's a wonderful space. And remember, if you've enjoyed this short film, then do subscribe to the Immortal Egypt YouTube channel, because we've got so much more exciting content to come.